Hello there, welcome to this channel. In this course, we build a perfect full-stack CRUD application. It is going to be a school management application using ASP.NET Core, Web API, react.js, and MongoDB. Introduction. In this course, you learn ASP.NET Core, Web API, handling API requests and routes, integrating MongoDB in Web API, building React app and integrating in ASP.NET Core, and finally publishing the app that you can host anywhere you want. Of course, you also will learn React routers, React hooks, React components, React props, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and many more. We have a lot to cover, so let us jump to the code. First, let us set up and configure MongoDB Atlas. To sign up for MongoDB, it is very easy. You fill some fields and you submit the form and then you log in. When you are in your Atlas, then you have to create a project. As you see here, I have here two projects, and for this course I create a new project. So new project, I name it school management, and then next, and the owner create project. The project is created. View all projects. Now we have here three projects. When you click on a project, you come here. Here then you have to create a cluster, and then within your cluster you create database, and within your database you create collections or simply tables. Build a database, and then here you have to choose from this. I go for free. It is for learning and exploring MongoDB in a cloud environment. You have 512 megabyte storage and shared RAM, shared CPU. They're all virtual. So the provider, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, or Azure. I just selected that one. It does not matter. So here you have to give a name for your cluster. I name it school cluster, just something, and then create. For your cluster you have to also give a user. Let us give it another name. School1. Open also a notepad and save some of this data. MongoDB tutorial. This is for that one, and then user is school1. Password, copy the password and paste it here because we need this later. So create user. We choose a local environment. The IP address, it gave the public IP address. In case you want to add your IP address, you can go on your browser, what is my IP, and then you get your public IP address in the browser. so it added automatically. In our case, we have here one IP address for this local machine, and if you host this in another machine, then you must go there, get the IP address, and then add the IP address here, the IP address of that machine. Now we configure MongoDB from this machine, so it automatically got the IP address. But if you configure it with one machine and use it in another machine, you must add the public IP address of that machine. It is very important and crucial, otherwise it will not work. It will not work if you use different IP address. For example, in my case, if I use this IP address here and host the application in another machine and do not add the IP address of that machine, the application will not work. For now, finish, and then go to the database. Not necessary. Here you have your cluster. Get connected. We use driver. We do not use shell or MongoDB for VS Code or Atlas SQL. We are coding out everything ourselves, so we need the driver. And in our case, we are using C#.NET. Select that, and also a version. Later we also need to install the MongoDB driver, but not for now. We need this connection string. Copy this and also call it connection string. Paste it here. Replace the password with this user password, and Control C, Control V. Then browse collections. In this cluster, we do not have a database yet. Click on add my own data, and here you give database name, collection name, and additional preferences. That is also not mandatory. So database name, let us call it news DB. Collection names students, and then create. Here you can click on insert document. Here in our collection we have only ID, and you can add here more fields. For example, first name, and that's a string. You can add that way last name, that is a string, and keep adding. Gender, now you can also change the type. Int 32, we give here 0. Let's say insert. Now we also can edit this here, edit document, and then add here new field. Say birthday, we select it here date. This is the correct date format, so it has to be like this, otherwise it keeps complaining that there is error. Age, this is also an integer, 0, and then we add one more, is graduated, and graduated is boolean, and the default value for that is false. For now, we are done on MongoDB. We are good to go, and we can now jump to Visual Studio to configure ASP.NET Web API. Open Visual Studio 2022, and here create a new project. Type react, and then here you have ASP.NET Core with react.js, the language C#. Select that and next. Select a location and project name. Web API MongoDB. This is just for tutorial. You should choose a good project name and solution name. For the solution, I think it is best practice to add something extra like app or something very general, because a solution can contain multiple projects, so it should be something different in my opinion. So click next, and here select the .NET framework version. I go with long-term support .NET 6, authentication none, and configure for HTTPS. Create. Let us see how it looks like. Voila, now it looks like this. You have a home page, a counter page, like this, and then you have fetch data about the weather. It uses CSS Bootstrap and JavaScript Bootstrap. It also uses jQuery to do stuff, but we are not going to use any jQuery or Bootstrap. I will use my own CSS. We will also learn CSS. We will also do everything with JavaScript, so you will learn also JavaScript. Right click on your project and then add. We create here 3 folders, one for data, one for modules, one for services. In this course, we are going to do things for only one collection or for one table. But for you, because probably you will work on many tables, many collections, so you have to collect all your modules for every table inside the modules, and all the services for all your collections inside the services. If you would have multiple files about the data, then you can add them inside in the data folder. To organize your files, your project is very nicely and clear. And inside the module, we create a class. We name it student, and for the data we add another class. We call it database settings, and for the services we add also a class. We call it student services. Inside the database setting class, create these 3 fields: collection name, database name, connection. Connection is just connection string. They are all public and string data type. Right click on your project, then go to manage NuGet packages. Here we need to install two packages. One is the .NET Core Newtonsoft JSON, and we see Newtonsoft, this one. Be careful with the version. We are using .NET 6. Select the same version as your other libraries. So here you have a library. So this one is .NET 6. This version is 6.0.15, and any other library that you install should be around the same version, but not version 7, because version 7 is for .NET 7. It will not work and you will get error. So again, Newtonsoft, and then 6.0.15, install it. And the other one is MongoDB driver, and select the first one and then install. Here inside the student file, we need to import some part of the MongoDB driver using MongoDB.json and using MongoDB.serialization.attributes. So I prepare this stuff instead of typing all of them, and it takes a lot of time, and I explain. Things you see inside square brackets are called decorators. Decorators are for serialization, for mapping. So based on ID, we are using here this ID, but in MongoDB you have underscore ID. So that's why we use base and ID, and that's also object ID. Here I have a copy of the collection or table of MongoDB. So as you see here, it is underscore ID, and it is OID, which is object ID, and this long string. So this one is also base and representation, base and type, object ID. This is for the ID. The naming convention in .NET is so that the first letter of attributes, methods, and anything should start with capital letter, and then if you have another word, you also use a capital letter for the first letter. So it is called Pascal case, but in Mongo they are all lowercase letter. So that's why you use base-on element to map this .NET object to MongoDB object. So here you have first name, and then first name, each one has a capital letter, and then last name, you have department, class. Here I use class name, but in MongoDB I used class, gender capital, and then here date of birth, but the year was birthday. This is just for learning purposes, just to show you that you can use base and element and give the name in MongoDB when you created your collection. And then the MongoDB driver will map this to the correct collection names or fields. And then here we use boolean is graduated, and then here only graduated. Another thing about MongoDB collection, in case you do not want to import or map all the fields of a collection from MongoDB, and you only want these fields that you created here, you can use another decorator that is called basin ignore extra elements. In case you have another fields that you do not want to import, and without this decorator you will get error, and with this it makes sure that you do not get any error. So this is the module for the student. About the types, make sure you give the same types as you gave in MongoDB. Now let us jump to app settings to store here some sensitive data or information. You have connection string. Here add 3 key value pairs. Collection name, you can name it whatever you want. It is not mandatory that you name it collection name for the collection name inside MongoDB. And then your database name, here the database name, and this is the connection string. Here is the username, here is the user password, here is the cluster name, and some other attributes. Save it and then jump to program.cs. Here we have to add a middleware for reading app settings JSON to be able to access or initialize the connection to MongoDB. This is the Microsoft way of connecting to MongoDB. Some other people do it in another way, like adding some services to read this app setting JSON, or not storing this information inside app settings JSON, or storing in another C# file and then reading that file. There are many ways, many approaches, but we are doing it in Microsoft way. So here below this comment, add services to the container. I just paste here the code. I already prepared everything. So this is student service. It is student services. It automatically imported the necessary files. So this is also called dependency injection, that you inject some services, some features, some components. So what it does is that from the database settings, from here we have this class. This is like a module or like a type, and then we get in the connection string inside the app settings JSON. Here we have collection name, database name, connection, and inside this we have the same properties or the same fields. So this fields is a type or a module for this connection string. So it reads that, and then we add also the services so that we can get read, write, and modify, delete stuff from MongoDB inside this student services. Now it is empty, but we will write codes for communicating with MongoDB here. One tip about this one, here it says allowed hosts star. It means all hosts are allowed, but now we are in development. For production you have to add here only the same origin, not any other origins. If it is, for example, Aqianos.com, accept only requests from Aqianos.com. not from any other origins. Let us work on this service. First, we need to import MongoDB driver using MongoDB.driver. Inside this class, create a private read-only field, iMongo collection, the type student, and name it student collection. Potentially fakes. I think we installed the wrong package, and that's why it gives error. Right click on your project, manage knowledge package, and from the installed we install this one, uninstall it. Here type Mongo driver, select the first one. Now you see all the errors gone, so now it is okay. So that was not MongoDB driver.core, it was just the MongoDB driver. Here we need a constructor, so public student services, and then I option, database settings, and then call it settings. Now in my case, when I use something, it automatically imports that. If you still get error from I options, you need to import this Microsoft.extensions.options. Create here a variable var Mongo client new Mongo client, and then here we have to pass settings dot value dot connections, settings dot value dot connection, that is the connection string. Then for MongoDB, and then from Mongo client dot get database, and then from settings dot value dot database name, and then here set this student collection. Student collection is MongoDB dot get collection, and the collection type is student, and the name is in the settings dot value dot collection name. Get all students, public async task, it is a list, and then list of student, and call it get async, and then return await student collection dot find underscore, and true means everything dot to list async. This is one way. You can also ignore the curly brackets and then use this one, and without return. And it is the same, it will also return the list of all students. Other one, get student by ID, so public async task, it is student, also get async, here we also get the ID, await, so collection dot find dot first or default async. Add new student public async task create async. So let us call this new student. Await student collection dot insert one async and then the new student. Update student public async task update async. Here we get the ID as well, string ID, and also call it update student. Await student collection dot replace one async, and then when the ID is x dot ID is the same as ID, and then pass that one. Delete student public async task remove async string ID await student collection dot delete one async. Here we actually delete one row from our collection. Best practice is that you do not remove any data from database. Instead, you update your database and set it to deleted true or deleted false. We do not have that field here. You can also add is deleted or deleted and then set it to boolean true or false, and then when you get this delete request you set that to deleted true, and then do not show any row that has the deleted true value. So that is the best practice. You never delete data from database. You just hide data. If you get the request to delete, you do not delete but you hide. I hope it is clear. So the services for the student is done. Now let us create here a controller for the API. So create here API controller. Right click, add controller, and then here not MVC controller, we need API controller. So here you can create API controller, empty API controller, or you can add API controller with read write actions. We are not using Microsoft SQL to use entity framework, so we are just this one is good for us now. Student controller and hit enter. Now we have this controller with some stuff. This is the API controller. It has this route. I always like to remove this one from here and add my own stuff. Just text, Control C. I replace all of them with that one. So here this gives like a number as ID, but with MongoDB you do not get integer, but the ID in MongoDB is a long string. It is something like this. So here you have object ID and this is that one, just as a test. So this one going to be this, and also for the update and also for the delete, the ID will look something like this, and it is not integer, it is a string. Here we also need a constructor. that is the constructor, and also a private field, private read only, and student service, student services, student services, and we have to get the student services and call it student services, and initializing the student services. Student services is student services. For the API methods, we are going to do slightly the same as how we did here. So this is the general stuff. We don't need that. We actually do not need in this. I'm going to use async await. So use here async, again task list, and then again here student. We don't need in this one. Use this short way, and then here we use await, and from student services we just get async. And then for the ID we have to add here something also extra, length 24, because this ID is a 24 character string. I think this is lowercase l. So here the same, this is async, this is in task with the type student, and this is by the ID. Here we save student await get by ID. If a student is null, we return not found. Otherwise we return just the student. This error is because we have to here also add action result, this one, and also close that angle bracket. For the post, we do not get anything from body or something. Task action result student, we get student new student. Await student service, create a sync, and then return create at action, name of get a new ID is new student .id. For update and delete, we need to add again the linked stuff, linketh 24, copy this and paste here. For the put, we get student update student. Here again we set async task action result. For the update, we should first check whether any row with that ID exists or not. Student, and then student await student service get async, and then we pass here the ID. Then student is null, return not found. And also a custom message, there is no student with this ID. If there is, then we are going to update that. Updated student.id is the ID of the student is student dot ID, this is student, and then await student service dot update async, we pass here the ID and the updated student, and also have to return okay the custom message updated successfully. And same thing for delete, just copy, paste here, again the ID, this is async and task action result. Remove extra stuff, and this one is remove async, the ID, and then say delete it successfully. Now actually we are done with backend, we are done with web API. Let us jump to the React frontend. I would like to open React application in Visual Studio Code because it is a JavaScript thing and it is much better to work in Visual Studio Code. So this is our project. Go inside and here you see client app, and then open this in Visual Studio Code, open with code. In ASP.NET, React comes with a lot of dependencies that normally we do not need. So I remove a lot of them. I remove all the stuff with workboxes and also Bootstrap and jQuery that are not necessary, and ESLint TypeScript, but I will remove that. If you also like, you can also remove that. It will not cause any problem. But before you remove, just take a copy of the original package.json. Just do Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and it takes a copy, and then remove it. Here we need to change some stuff. Here we have setup proxy. Inside the proxy, here you have weather forecast. You also need to add the API student. API student, and also one with backslash here to make sure it works. And here also add change origin and set it to true. Inside the index we are not going to use the service worker registration stuff. Comment out. So here you also have Bootstrap, remove it in case you do not use it. If you uninstall Bootstrap, then you should remove it, otherwise you will get error. Then inside the component we have counter. We don't need the counter, we don't need the fetch in data. It is best that you keep them and refer to them in case it is necessary, in case you want to look back and see how React itself does things with React. You see, this is class-based component. We are going to create a functional component using React hooks. So this is in the route, it is okay. We will add more stuff to this. We will have edit, we will have new, to add a new student, to edit a student. So we remove this. Inside the components, create these files, edit.js, create also new.js to create new student, edit new student, and also student itself, and then student.js, and we have the home. Now this became a functional component. Create an empty function, export default function student purpose, return section, and then Control A, Control C, Control V, change it to new, Control V, change it to edit, and we write all our CSS inside of this. Let us run our application and see if we get any error or not. So we got some error and it says counter is not defined inside app routers. Home is not exported. This caused the error actually. So, when you import a functional component, you do not use curly brackets. This one edit, and this one is new. Save. Now we are good. Student manager application. Okay, very nice. Now let us work on homepage first. There also must be a button to add new student. Button plus for adding new student. This is actually not a button, it is a link. href new. Here we also use react hooks. Const students, set students, and then use state, empty object, use a fake. This empty array means that this component should get rendered only once. So here we need to make a call to the backend for getting all the students and setting that to these students. We use fetch API student. So this is a get request, we don't need anything else, and then we have the response, and then we return or.json. We don't need actually return when you use only this, and then you have that data, and then here I want to see the data as well first. Console.log, the students are here D, and we set the students to this data, and if there is any error, console.log. You also have console.error, but the error you will get red color in the console, and, I don't like that. That looks scary. The error fetching all students, and here is the error. If the students list is empty, I want to show a nice loading animation, and if we have the data, we just show the data. Let us create here a table, and then table head tr first name, last name, class name, department, gender, birthday, graduated, and finally age. And then we need table body, students dot length is 0. So this one is not empty object, it is empty list. It is that we render here a div element that says loading. Another div element for this one, class name should be row, and this one should have loading, and also waiting. We will create styles for these classes for row, waiting, loading, and etc. And if it is not a 0, then we are going to map over this students dot map. Then we will have a student, and for every student we are going to return a table row. This is going to be tr 1td for the first name. So here we add student dot first name, we have student last name, we have the student class name, and then we have the student department, student gender, we have the student birthday, and we have the age. Let me show you something about these attributes. Here you see we gave the naming like Pascal case. So first letter capital, first letter capital, and then here as well, and then here as well is graduated. But here we do not give it like this. Why? Because when we get it from the API, the first letter is always lowercase. In fact, everything is lowercase, but because it does not do anything with the rest of the naming or the rest of characters, so it only changes the first letter to lowercase. First name, last name, class name, department, gender, birthday is graduated. So this one is also not birthday, this is date of birth, because this is how we give inside .NET. So let's see how it looks like. So this looks like this. We get the data from the API. So this is the data inside MongoDB. Gender 0 and birthday like this, and age 0, but our table does not look like a table, so let us taking care of this. Inside here, your custom.css say table tr th td border 1 pixel solid black and border collapse and let us also say for td to have 5 padding 5 pixels and th should have padding 7 pixels. It looks like this. It is much better. And we also say text align the center, so it is better. For the th we also want the font weight to be bold. Now it is bold. 9 pixel paddings looks better. This is top and bottom 9 pixel, say right only 15 pixel. Let us for the only for the table with 100%, so that it should take the whole space because otherwise it's not necessary. So now it looks better and it is also kinda responsive. So for the row it asks us a key prop. This one is key student dot id. You see in here students are getting only the id of the students and on the rest is graduated false, is graduated false. So you can also do something like this. If graduated is true, we here say yes, otherwise we say no. And about the gender, if it is 0 is female, if it is 1 it is male. So is 0 female, otherwise male. Now you see gender female, graduated no, and it looks much better. And the error also gone because of the key. So when you map inside JSX, you have to use the key attribute. It is because React wants to keep track of the order of each row or each item inside this loop. It is take care of creating and updating students. First, let us make this button, let's say add button, to come here on the right side. So I put it inside a div element and call it add button. Add button position fixed, top 50 pixel, right it is also 50 pixel. Background color we want it to be this one, and the color will not work. But add button, there is anchor element, color white, text decoration none, we don't want the underline. And this one should have also padding 9 pixel. We want it to look like a button, so border radius 4 pixel. Now it looks like this. We want the table to have a little bit margin. a margin top 60 pixels, and in the bottom we should give it a specific width 90 pixels, and then text align center and make it 60 pixels, font size 30 pixels. It looks better, and now we should change the padding to, let us say, 3 pixel. Now it looks good. And font weight bold. So our add button looks good. Here we forgot two things, one for edit and another one for delete. Edit, delete, and here also we should add edit and delete. For the edit, it is something else. It is also a link. We can handle this in two ways. We can add here an anchor element for link, or we can set that by adding here a click event and then setting the document location to edit. Anchor element, edit, and then href, edit. We also add here query string id is equals to student dot id, so that we can use this id to get the student and then edit. To handle the delete, we do not need another component. We create here a custom alert just to say, do you want to delete this student? Yes, we delete. No, we do not delete. Now let us work on the new component. Click on this one. Now new component, it is empty. There is nothing. Here we gave a title, again h1, add new student, add new student. I want this one to have also a margin, like margin 20 pixel dot aim 20, margin 20 pixel. Now it is better. So here we need some inputs. Label, first name, input, type, text, name, first name, id. If n, the id is just for the label to work. HTML4, if n, just to keep it simple. Here we also need an object. I just copy paste this one. So first name, last name, department, class name, gender, date of birth, is graduated, and age. So this is in this one. Inside of this, I also create a method, const, call it new data. Here I get the name and the value. Const name event dot target dot name, and then value. just v. So for this I say entry name is always the key inside this object, and the value is whatever the user enters in the input is the value. Also print that to show you that it works. Console.log. So here on change we just pass this function, so new data. So now if I enter here anything, now see if as the first name and then fd, whatever I enter here, you see it comes inside that object. So copy pasting this multiple times for other fields. For gender we need to create here select to select it between male or female. Value 1 0 female, and then cut this and bring it here. Let us see gender male female. This one copy for graduated, and here for the birthday, date of birth, DOB, date of birth, top. Just funny stuff, and the type is date, not text but date. This one is graduated, 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 is graduated. So one for yes, no. Not every type here is the correct type. Then we also need to change the type here, and also here even you see this is a number, but there the input is always string for some insane reason. So graduated age, we calculate the age ourselves. They don't need to give the age because they just gave the birthday, and based on the birthday and the current date we know the age. So let us see is graduating, birthday, gender, first name, last name, blah blah blah. So here we need to do some stuff. The value should be late because we modify that. If name is date of birth, we need to set the value new date with the new value to get the correct date type, otherwise we will get error. And then the same for the gender. If name is gender, if it is 1 or 0, we just set the value to a number. Is number value, just convert from string to number. And then from is graduated, again based on 1 or 0, we say true or false because we gave it boolean there. I also can give here true or false, but then you get a string true or false, not a boolean true or false. You have also a new thing in JavaScript, get value as, but for that you need to get the input and stuff. We are using in an easier way just based on the name attribute. Is graduated, we say value is value equals is 1. If it is 1, it means that the moonlight is graduated. Otherwise it means that she is not graduated. So it is to convert it to boolean. If it is 1, true, otherwise it is false. So this is done for that. And here we need another thing, two buttons, one to cancel and another one to add them. In both cases it should do something and then return to the home page. Leave cancel, leave add. On click, we are going to do this. Add a new student. Here we have the object, and then we need to send this to the backend of .NET, and .NET will ask that service, and the service will talk to the MongoDB cloud services. Here we should also console log. So the new user is this one. Here we again use fetch API student, and this time we need to pass here some methods. So method, we need to pass here key value pair. Sorry, it is post, and then body, we need to stringify it from JSON object to string. JSON dot stringify entry, and then we also need to, let us try without setting the header and see what happens. Normally it should know that it is JSON, and then here console.log response from backend for adding new student, and in the response, if there would be any error, we log the error. Console.log, we say error adding new student, and voila, the error. And this on click, this will happen. So let us check it out. Okay, let us try first name. Let us say Sarah Mara A20 Department of Computer, female, and we set a date of birth to be a very old lady. This date is graduated. No. And then let us see what happens. So poster to this says 450 unsupported meta type, because it means that we have to set the headers content type application JSON. We have to try again, refresh it. I forgot to do something here. So here it means it was okay. When it was okay, it was successful, we should return to the home by saying window.the location. We just set it to this one. Oh, and then the same thing on console, on click. So here we have to do an anonymous function, and then window.the location. We just set that to this, and now it should go back. It is going back, and we have the new user that we created. Now it came from MongoDB. So Mara A20 computer, female, and this date. And about the date, I also want to modify this, so I only want to take this date, not the time. So how can you do that? You can do it like this. You have here date of birth, and you can date of birth, and then you have, this is a string, spell it T, there you have a character T, and then take the first one. I hope it works without any, voila. Now you see only that date part and not the time part. And for this one we need to be able to edit, so the edit one is working. Oh my god, the new I was afraid that the new button is not working. So the style is not looking very good. We need to do some stuff for this styling, and then copying this for edit, and then just use it. So let us say I want that all the labels have font weight bold, and I want that all inputs and selected has margin left 10 pixel. It should not be that close to this one, and I want the inputs to have border none, only border bottom 1 pixel solid in this color. Now you see I like this. Without that it should look like that. For example, ABC, like that. Also give margin top for each let's say row. class margin top 20. Copy this, add to this one, and then call it empty 20 margin top 20 pixel. Now it has 20 pixel margin top, but it is too much. 10, 10, 10. Now 10 pixel is good. So I make this also 10. Control C. And this one should have a margin top 30. Now you see it looks better. This one also should be row, should have padding 20 pixel. Dot p20 padding 20 pixels. So there we have a class row. Row should be displayed as flex. Justify around, justify content space around. I also like to give this to this one. Now it looks like this. Let us change it to between. BT value. Justify in between. Now it looks better. And this one should have a class btn, class name btn. Control C, class name btn, add console. So btn should have a width of 60 pixels and height of 30 pixels, border radius 5 pixels, and by default background color green. Now it looks like this. Text align center. Let us see if it works. Vertical align middle. So the middle does not work. To make this appear in the middle, we remove the height and give padding top and bottom. Padding top 5 pixel, let's say for now, and padding bottom 5 pixels. Now it looks like that. So this did not work, and instead of that we say cursor pointer dot btn dot add background color green, color white. For the console btn console background color yellow. Let us see. Now it looks like this. So you can use CSS to make it much more prettier and prettier. attractive, beautiful. But that is actually not the point of this course to teach you CSS. I think this looks good for now. Let us copy this and modify for edit. First copy, Ctrl C for edit, and then paste here. We modify some stuff. Say update student. We need to bring the new data. So we have also add student. We have also new data. Take both of them here. We forgot one thing. So this one is put. Here on date of birth, I said that we will calculate the age of the student, and I forgot that here. Let us do it here and then copy it there. Now we have here the value, and we can just say entry dot age, the date of today. We say new date. When you say new date, it is the today's date, and then you can say get full year of this today minus the v dot get full year. So getting the year, only the year from the birthday, and then subtracting that from the current date, and then this way you have the user age. Control C, Control V, and then for the put we also need the ID of the user that we want to modify or edit. Here we used click function to change the path, but you can also use anchor element, link element to just change the path. Both work fine. I think link element is much better solution, but I showed this here just as an option. For edit, we also need to have the data to show the previous data of the student, and for that we need react state. Let's call it data set data use state empty object, and when we are on this component, we need to make a call to backend with the user ID to get the user and then populate the user data. So fetch, that is API student, and then the student ID. Say for now we don't have it, then we have the data, we have the response. We return the response by saying response.json, and then we have the data. We set data, and if there would be any error console.log log error getting student for update, and then here the error itself. If we get, we just say student for update is D. Then we use this data to set the value. For example, here we use default value. You have that attribute default value data dot first name. Copy this and then add data dot last name, the default value data dot class name, department, and then for selected, that is the problem we need to solve. We need to set here value. For this you need to here have a separate state. So we have here three this stuff. We have gender, we have graduated, and also we have date. Set gender, we say d dot gender, and the same way for graduated, set graduated d dot graduated. So this is boolean, we have to pass here real boolean, true or false. In the name we passed 1 and 0 because it was simpler and less characters. So here when we say gender, also should say set gender v, and then set graduated value. Use this method for the update instead of add new. So here we have id is not defined because it is not defined. Let's also create a state for the id. Control C, Control V. Let us say seat, and this is this string graduated is that one, gender is that one. Now we pass the id as query string in the URL because we cannot pass it as props in this component from the home component. We don't have that component here. We are passing it like this: edit id and then student id. So to get that, one way is to read the URL. So here const id is window.location.search. This gives us the query string. And then if it is not empty, we say if id, let us make it let so that we can modify it. If it is not empty, not null, not undefined, if this has value, we then set id as id dot split, and there you have equal sign. Split the equal sign and then take the second element of this array. When you use a split, it divides that string into separated items into an array. It converts that string to array. Very simple. And now we get the second one, and then if we have id, we are going to do this. Otherwise it will be just error in the console, not in the user interface. And it is not necessary to make a call with the id that does not exist. And here for the update we need to set the id, set sid, and then the id, and then when we update we need to get the id. So here is id. Also in this one to modify that. Let us see it. A lot of stuff going on here. It just keeps us going and going and making the call. So some stuff worked here and gender, male, graduated, no, blah blah blah, but it keeps us going. Why? Because we forgot to put this one so that it runs only one. It is stopped. It is close it, refresh. So we got that user. The user has no class name or a dummy first name, last name is like this, gender is female, date of birth is not actually okay. Let us go back and select it in this. So here you see that the first name, last name, class name, department, gender, graduated, all work fine except the birthday. The birthday is because of the format of this. We can resolve that problem using multiple ways. Where is the birth date? So this is the date, birth date unchanged. It has no value. Let's say default value data dot date of birth. It did not work and it complains. Here it says the specified value, this one, does not conform to be required format. So the year, the month, and the day. You need to split in that crazy date. I hope it works here. Probably not. And then we take the first one. Okay, it worked, and now it we got error split. So this one, if it has no value, then we get here error. So another workaround for that is if it has value, we do that, otherwise we don't do that. Control C. If it has value, if it is true, we do that, otherwise we pass here empty string. Now it works fine. Let us remove the old errors, refresh the page. Everything is working fine now. And now we can update this user. So this user looks fine. Let us add stuff for the first user. So it has no first name, it has no last name. First name, let us name it Lean. Lean, who was Lean? Lean Lease, just the name, okay. B12, Department of Science. Gender sounds female to me. Date of birth, we changed this from 1999 to make 1995 October 16. Is graduated, let's say yes, and then let us update it successfully. So it also calculated the age. Now the other one do not have the age. So for the Sarah we have birthday but not age. That is because at that time we did not write any code for that. So let us first make it 4 and then now make it back 5 and update. Now my goodness, that's another problem with our state. So here if we do not modify the input, we do not call this function to then set the data in this object to when we push this that we have the right data. There is a workaround for that. So on the edit, instead of using this template object, we can use this data. When we set this data, we also should assign that to that template object. Let me show you what I actually mean. So you have something called object.assign. You have the target object. The target object is entry and the source object is here D. So with this code we preventing that huge problem. So we need to set that as well now. This Sarah Mara, she's 9040, so her name was Sarah, that name was Mara, class was 18, department of computer. So now we do not change any other thing, and that object.assign should take care of the rest. It should stay female, the birthday should stay corrected, and the age should stay corrected, and as graduated should stay corrected. And then voila, Sarah Mara, science female, and then graduated no, and this one is like this. So she is 43 years old. Let us say she is graduated. And now we should not see. You see, now we assign that. It did not change that. Why? For the okay, here we say graduated true or false. That was the reason it was not working. And then is true, otherwise false. Now yes, she is graduated. Now the update is working perfectly, the add is working perfectly, and it is taking care of the delete. Go back to the home component. Here we have the delete item. Here we create a custom alert, not inside the table, of course, inside the main. Create. I also promised you the style for this one, waiting and loading. I will show you the style for that and create a style here inside the custom CSS. But first, the delete. So another section, I like to use more section than div, because div is a very old HTML element. So this is the parent, and then inside of this div element, this is like a module h3, and then here a paragraph. Here we create action buttons. Div elements, let us bring that from edit. This is row empty 20, justify between. That one is for the console, that one is for delete, and here we say delete student, delete is a student. Made a mistake here in the naming, so forgive me about that. So we need to create this delete function. Corners delete. Here we need the student ID. Again, the student ID, set seat, use state, and from the update, just copy paste. Control C. This one seat, and the method is delete. This has no body, no header, no nothing. When it is okay, we close that pop-up and delete model. Conus and delete model. Document and dot query selector and delete model. If we have the delete model, we say in delete model dot class list dot add hidden to hide it. And when we click on here, we pass the user ID. We set the user ID. On click, set seed, and then here we pass student dot ID. Actually, we need to do more than this. Open delete model, create here also that function. Open delete model, we pass here the ID. This one is the ID, and we also call this one here. If that one is, we remove the hidden class. Open delete model, we call this, and we pass here student ID. When click happens, we call this function, and this will open this module. Then now we have to create this module item. That's just a name, and you can name it whatever you like. So the style for this, Control C. Need more. First of all, it should be this position focused. Position focus. Top 0, bottom 0, right 0, left 0, background color black with transparency. So like that. We want to display focus and then focus direction column, justify content center, align item center. Let us see how it looks like. It looks like this for now. It says, are you sure you want to delete this student? And the module item itself, the module item background color white. Now it looks like this. We now want to add padding top and bottom 10 pixel, right and left 15 pixel. Let us see how it looks like. We want to give it border radius 9 pixel. Padding top, we want the padding top to be 5 pixel. Right is okay. 15. Now it looks a little bit better. So let's say that this is okay, and the console should just close the module. So you see here we are using this thing like twice. Also similar thing here and similar thing here, and we need one for also for the console. So let us create here another function, call it handle module, and then we say hide or display. Then I just so here we display control X, control V, if module, then based on this, if hide is true, if hide, we say control C, we make it hidden, add hidden, else it is false, we make it display, and then we use this handle module. So here we say false. Handle module, we say here true. And also here we say open module console, we for the height we pass true. So now we need to create in the hidden class hidden display none. Here we say display flex, there we say display none. When you say close, you should not see that, and when we say delete, we should see this. First here we should check if we get the correct ID or not. Console.log the student ID is set, and we return. By default it should be hidden. Now by default the module is hidden. We want to delete the last one. We can cancel, we can reopen, and then we can delete. And then it says that the user ID is this one, so it is correct. And then let us make the request, comment that out. If it is okay, we hide the module, and also we should refresh the state as well. So one way to refresh the state, because we get the new data when this component loads. So to load this component, one way is to here pass the name of a state, and then when that state changes, it also re-renders, or we can reload the page. Windows dot location dot reload. So now we delete the last one. Voila, it got reloaded and deleted the last student. So now we can add new item to MongoDB, we can update new item, and then we can delete. We can also get all the items. So it is create, read, update, and delete. For the rest, if this does not look so pretty, it is because we are not using so much CSS. So it is not the point of the course to make this application very pretty. You can do it. I have also a CSS full course that teach you everything about CSS, from very basics to very advanced CSS topics. Now I show you the code for waiting and loading. So back here for waiting dot waiting, that is just the cursor wait, and then for loading I paste it here and I explain. So the font weight bold, you know that. So this is animation. I talked about animations in details in my CSS full course. So you have animation name, it is load. This is in the animation. So at 0% the width is 0, at 50% the width is 4 pixels, at 100% the width is 15 pixels, and the default width is 0. The animation duration is half second, and the iteration count is infinite. It means that it has to run forever. An overflow is hidden, so that in case when the width is 0 but there are some content that we don't want to see the content. Now it seems that we do not see anything. The problem, this is length. Now you see here that animation, this cursor is waiting, and you see here loading, because there is no content. You see here an error. The point of this error is that any other elements cannot be child of table body. And the best solution for that is to use here tr with td. Change this to tr. This one should also come inside of a td. Give this tr waiting, and that td should have no border, and tr waiting, and tr waiting td should have border none, overflow visible, width 50 pixels, class row 100 pixel, and as you see we are still seeing the error because of div element. This one is not necessary, and let's try to put that inside a span. White space text nodes cannot appear as a child of tr. Make sure you don't have any extra white space between tags on each line of your source code. So maybe this is something, or maybe this is. That was because of the white space between this one. The loading is working, and you see this only when the length of your data or students list is 0, or when the list is empty you see it, otherwise you don't see it. Now let us go and publish this application. Stop this. To publish, right click on your project and then go to publish. We're going to publish this on a folder, not on Azure, Docker, or on any other remote servers. On a folder, React Web API, MongoDB. Okay, this folder and finish. Close. This is the target location. Delete existing files. It is best to always do that. So we are not using any of other stuff. Delete all existing file. We are not using SQL Server. We are not using Entity Framework. So the rest is not necessary. Save and then publish. So this published successfully. Let us jump to that directory. We have here an .exe file. Now this is ready to be hosted anywhere you want. You can host it on any Linux machine. You can host it on Azure, on AWS, or anywhere. Let us double click on this, and now this is working perfectly. You can just jump to this URL, and now we have it. Now you can use it like any regular application. Let us open it on Chrome. Let us add one student. Graduated, no, and then add 23 years old from 2000. We can edit, can change the date, for example, make the guy a little bit older and say graduated. Yes, just an example. So he became 25. You can delete it. If you really create something to use regularly, create a shortcut, more options, create shortcut, control X this shortcut. For example, I bring it on this desktop, rename this it is go to here. Now student manager on the desktop, I just double click on it, it works perfect, and then use control click It opens on your browser and you can add view and do stuff with this application. Now we are at the end of this course. I really hope that you learned something, that you enjoyed learning with me, that you had fun learning with me. Thank you so much for watching and liking, supporting my videos and my channel. Have great times. If you have any question about anything on this course, just write your questions in the comment. I answer as soon as possible. Have great time.